Hey everyone, it's the Slayer, and today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars Master of Evil by Adam Christopher. Um, Before I get into that though, I just want to give you guys a little update of things I'm planning to do with this channel going in the future. Um, I know right now there's a lot of things going on in the Star Wars or Lucasfilm. We know with Kathleen Kennedy maybe leaving and new leadership may be taking over, and what may be going on with Ahsoka season 2, Mando and Grogu, Maul Shadow Lord. So those are all things I'm very very well informed of, and definitely know what's going on in social media with everyone talking about it. So, I know I'm mainly just post reviews right now, but I potentially, think I could see myself, posting videos discussing some of those events, or not events, but I would just say just little stuff that's going on regarding the brand and the IP, that I think I would like to just put my 2 cents, I guess you could say, on my thoughts and opinions on, you know, the changes and things that I think could be better for Star Wars and Lucasfilm as a whole. But right now, let's just talk about this book. This book, I believe, was announced last year in Star Wars Celebration 2025, April. And I remember this book was very much marketed as a Darth Vader story. You know, the whole line was very hyped up with, the line about Darth Plagueis the Wise. Well, that may come into fruition. None of it came into fruition. Um, Before I get into, as you can see, I have strong opinions already, but um, let's talk about the things I liked, and then we'll talk about the things I disliked. Um, so, you know, for most of the year, I had been expecting, and this was my most anticipated book of the year, to read a Darth Vader story that takes place right after Episode 3. Sorry. I know that this takes place between two of the Charles Soules comics. It takes place after the first volume of 5 or 6 issues that he did. Between the first volume and second volume, the story takes place. So after he's already killed the one Jedi Master whose Kyber crystal he took, and then had to go bleed the Kyber crystal underneath the cave in Mustafar in the comic issue. Well, Adam Christopher, kind of shows us some of those scenes. It gives us a little bit more just Vader's inner thoughts while that was happening. And Vader has only like 3 or 4 POVs in this book. Very minimal POVs, like a page and a half. And honestly, I felt even with those few scenes we saw of Vader. Well, hold on. Before we get into that, Vader, as I'm telling you guys now, very minimal in this book as far as POV, though he is in the story a lot. We just don't get his POV. The main POV character is Goth, a royal guard colonial in charge of the Emperor's Red Guards. He has been tasked by the Emperor himself to spy on Darth Vader while Darth Vader goes in search for the power of the dark side that Palpatine said he was going to give to him but didn't. So now Vader has to go figure it out on his own because, his wife's dead. He was promised she was going to live. What else is he going to do? Like, he needs to fulfill he needs to feel, I think, in himself that he needs to feel as if this was worth all of it. Like, he needs to get his end of the bargain, you know. And I felt like that's what kind of what this mission was about. So, you know, I liked Colonial Goth. You know, he had an illness, and you know, he had in the story he had to try and get it treated, and you know, there was just kind of a whole different kind of plots, especially towards the end. It was getting a little confusing, but Goth was a good character. I did like him, you know, um, and yeah, he had an unfortunate ending. I liked his protocol droid, TC. I thought, you know, he was a very interesting droid. He almost reminded me of like 000, just being able to do these different things and just having not that normal like protocol droid persona. I thought, you know, that made TC really interesting character, so I do like that character. Um, you know, Darth Vader and the Royal Guard Goth go looking for this shaman who supposedly knows the power, you know, to keep life from death. So Vader, you know, him and Goth and his team go to the planet where he is. The tribesman gets him, tortures him, kills him. You know, this shaman is actually kind of trippy, and I thought this was kind of like, it was interesting, you know. And I wish I had trouble kind of visualizing some of what was happening in the book. I don't know, maybe it was just the way it was written. Um, you know, and I liked Shadow of the Sith. I easily could picture every single thing that was happening in that book. You know, I thought Adam Christopher was a masterful storyteller with that story. This one, I will admit, there were times, especially towards like halfway or towards the end of the book, when you know they're on the ships slash temple. It was just getting a little confusing with sometimes what was going on there. Um, but not to distract away from what I'm currently saying, is that, you know, Goth was a cool character, TC was a cool character. They went to get the shaman. Vader killed him. The shaman was using these different voices to mess with Vader's mind. He was talking like Padme, talking like Obi-Wan. Um, and not just Vader could hear those voices, but the people around him, you know. I just thought that was a really interesting thing. You know, come to find out then, the shaman had a wife and a daughter, and the daughter especially was in tune with the Force. Uh, and Vader wanted that daughter. She was like the virgins, I guess you could say, to that planet, and he wanted her. Um, but Goth was such a good guy. Like, I would say very much he's definitely a loyalist to the Empire, but I would say it's not really the Empire, but the Republic itself, which is Empire by name, I would say at this point still. It's only by name, I would say at this point still. Um, I think you don't have any of those bad guys like Tarkin, Thrawn, um, Director Krennic in a way, yes, but he's still not really in command at this point. But people like that, you know. Um, and then what was really cool, which I also really liked, was Commander Appo showed up. You know, he was in the Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith. He, you know, was trying to shoot the Padawan played by George Lucas' son. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, that was a really surprising thing, and I was happy he didn't get killed. I would have been really disappointed if Adam brought him back only to kill him off in this book. You know, I think he's left so much potential now open to that character to continue on. Now that we know he lives past Order 66 at the cost of his leg, though, you know. Now he's a cybernetic leg. And yeah, it's kind of funny that towards the end of the book too, you know, Appo almost like relates to Darth Vader because of his prosthetic and just not being perfect, and I did like that at the end. Um, yeah. So I would say, for first half of the plot, it was really good. But then when we got inside like this spaceship, hyperspace lassos and the temple and Vader just having these like visions, fights with himself, with Anakin, it just didn't feel like, when Darth Vader's having his fight with himself, but with Anakin, I really felt Adam Christopher did not understand Anakin or Darth Vader as their own characters. I feel like the dialogue I was reading, the interaction that was happening between the two characters was just, I would say, not organic. It just didn't feel authentic to the characters themselves. And I feel like the conversation should have been a little different from what it was, and it just didn't feel like it felt like the characters with the words that they were saying to each other. Um, so I did dislike that, and I'd really dislike just the way the whole, like I'm saying, the temple ship, lasso, hyperspace stuff. Like, it just was really hard for me to understand and interpret some of those things that were going on, because I just feel like there was just so much going on, and just it was just maybe a little too overwhelming for Adam to really define what it is. But besides that, I would say, it was a pretty good story. So I'd give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Um, but yeah, so that's my review. I think my next review will be the Return of the Jedi novelization. So just keep a lookout for that. Until next time, may the Force be with you.